We've all woken up a little too drunk, wondering, how the hell did I get here? Which is fine for life, but it's not okay for your story. Our hero's screw-ups and successes need to point clearly towards our midpoint, climax, and denouement by taking a path with intentional steps known as beats, but not the kind by Dr. Dre. Instead, these beats are made by you for you, so that your story can trek along like a little emotion gopher, nomming up ecstasy breadcrumbs on its way to the finish line. Without these breadcrumbs, your story becomes gluten intolerant, growing very smug about the fact that it makes no sense and doesn't go anywhere because it can't drink beer or eat pizza. So to keep your story from becoming your friends group's designated buzzkill, we're going to go through story beats and scene structure with everyone's favorite alcoholic horse, Bojack. Bojack's story starts with a drunk interview, but it's not your normal PTA conference. It's actually a beat called the exposition. The point of this beat, shockingly, is to expose your hero. Not like that. You need to show your audience who they're working with, what are their problems, and what do they need to fix about their life. You're setting the foundation of the relationship, like a Tinder date, only instead of matching with a catfish, you're matching with a horse. Again.
But isn't it a cliche to start with an interview? How will my audience know if they like the horse? Shouldn't I have him do something nice, like save a cat instead of, trying to fuck one?
Man, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that last question. Look, you have every right to be overwhelmed, but writing a first draft of a story is just like taking your cousin to prom. You're gonna make mistakes. You're not gonna know 100% what you're doing, and you're probably going to go too far and avoid each other for a few years at family get-togethers, but what matters is that you try to get a solid grasp of who your hero is as you move on to the next beat, which is the inciting incident. Inciting incidents are the sand between the butt cheeks of our character. It's the thing that makes them so uncomfortable that they have to make a move and attempt some life changes. For Bojack, this sand is a combination of two gritty bits, his slippage into cultural irrelevance and pressure from an irritable penguin, so basically life after your 21st birthday. The fear of being forgotten and pressure from an angry bird gives Bojack the desire to write a book and be loved by everyone. Talk about knowing your target audience. More importantly, the book forces Bojack to look back on his life, which is more painful than a paper cut to the finger web. Remember that as storytellers, we are the domestic abusers of our characters, making them suffer so much that it forces them to change. The key lies in how we make them suffer. The only way Bojack is ever going to change from the hammered equestrian in the handicap spot to anything less than a turd sandwich is if he takes a serious look at his life, what he's endured, and what he has caused other people to suffer through. But he can't do that alone. We need something, or someone, to really rub his butt cheeks together and make those two bits of sand unbearable. In walks our catalyst, our inciting incident, our Diane.
Well, that's great, Andrews. Thanks, I guess, for helping me fill out a beat sheet and talking about butt cheeks, but how do I get from one beat to the next?
Easy, with everyone's favorite S-word. Set scenes. Scenes get us from beat to beat like an eccentric designated driver. It's not a straight shot, there's a lot of drama and emotion. We're in a rush, but we're also obeying traffic laws, except for that one school zone we sped through. I'm sure they'll be fine. Scenes spit a thick green loogie in the face of every writing seminar that says cut to the chase, your story needs to be fast, because scenes cause friction, and friction plus speed equals chafing, so I'm going to teach you how to take things slow the right way. We know we need to get a horse to write a memoir, we've all tried, but he can't just go from reluctant horse to enlightened equestrian at peace with his past. I mean, hell, we're gonna need a couple episodes just for Bojack to realize he isn't perfect. So what are these steps to get our hero from reluctant writer to a horse who has no choice but to talk to his ghostwriter? First, we show our horse's reluctance to change, that he's content drinking a happy pill breakfast margarita, but that really shafts our creative sphincters, because if a horse doesn't want to change, why would he? So we do what any good writer would do. We gently threaten him. Pinky the Publishing Penguin is as broke as a YouTuber whose viewers don't subscribe to the channel, and he is in desperate need for Bojack to finish his memoirs in our second scene. It's not exactly a threat, but it is a time bomb. Bojack needs to write his first chapter, or else. This becomes Bojack's external want, the golden cookie rolled in Molly at the end of the tunnel, but to get that cookie, which probably wouldn't taste good at all, Bojack would have to look at himself honestly. The task of writing a memoir becomes less about getting the thing done and more about confronting the broken glass and cigarette butts of his life and childhood. By the third scene, the writers proceed to show the audience how Bojack's behavior affects the people around him, whether it's Todd's reluctance to mature, his toxic relationship with Princess Carolyn, or Pinky's power slide down the success ladder of life by scene 4. In just 4 scenes, we get everything down to kick off our story. A horse with a reluctant goal, people he cares about suffering because of his inaction, and an internal need to examine his life choices and suck less. That's it. Now we just need to make each scene strong enough to keep the viewer's attention in this booty shake world of TikTok or whatever it is you kids are doing these days. So, how do we do that without copious amounts of amphetamines, you might ask?
I wasn't going to.
We know what each scene needs to do, we just need to make it booty-shakingly entertaining, which brings us back to story friction. Yeah, sure, story friction comes from your hero trying to accomplish big goals like writing a book or stealing a telescope from his Make-A-Wish friend, but the best friction is made between characters, not like that. Well, okay, sometimes like that, but the friction I'm talking about comes from conflict. Characters have things that need said, but they don't get to say them directly. It's like that last conversation you never got to have with your ex. To make a scene tense, we want to identify the next story beat and what tiny steps we need to make to get there. Then we put characters in that scene that will create friction when making that next step. Think of them like tripping hazards. For example, watching Grandma go up the stairs is boring, but you put a few Legos, banana peels, and a slip and slide soaked with WD-40 on that staircase, and suddenly we've got ourselves some entertainment. It's not enough for Todd to tell Bojack he's got a good heart. We need Bojack to actively reject wanting to hear this. It's not enough for Bojack to be a narcissistic scumbag to some woman. We need that woman to genuinely love him and to be his agent. It's the contrast between who our hero is and who we want them to be in each scene that creates friction and advances the story by showing us the need to change. Todd's scene establishes that Bojack has it within himself to be good, even if our hero doesn't believe it himself. Princess Carolyn shows us that Bojack's current behavior makes life hell for those people who care about him and depend on him. And it's dramatized and frictionized, that's a word now, when we see Carolyn's real emotions towards Bojack in opposition to Bojack's unwillingness to commit to anything real. In your own struggle to get from beat to beat, think of yourself as a story fluffer. Take a few extra minutes to consider where you need your scene to end, what character friction and flaws you want to highlight, how you can stress that friction, and how you can slowly build that friction from scene to scene and beat to beat. Then, when your writing scene is nice and aroused, start writing and see where it takes you. But don't do that yet, I've got stuff to sell. If you want more help on writing scenes, there are a few worksheet links down in the description. If you'd rather enjoy a story than write one, my book Creating Human is on Amazon for 99 Abe Lincoln tokens. And if you don't even have one Abe Lincoln, subscribe to the channel for free 99 and give my ego some fluffin'. Thanks for watching.